Good afternoon. My name is Alina Shevtsova. I am an immigration attorney from Brooklyn, New York. In today's Legally Speaking seminar, I would like to talk to you about one of the most important forms in immigration that you can, will, maybe did file. I-485, or Form for Adjustment of Status. This is the form that any person who would like to receive, or almost every person who would like to receive a green card in the United States would have to file. There are some instances when people do not have to file this form to receive a green card, but that's not the topic of this video. So Form I-485, it can be found on USCIS.gov website. As a rule, it will be filed with other forms that serve as a basis for the green card, but not always, depending on what's going on. If you have a category for adjustment of status that requires you to wait until your priority date becomes current or not. So let's talk about that form. It used to be, just a couple years ago, it used to be only 5 pages long, and now it's close to 20 pages. Why? Because it became very detailed. It has a lot of questions now. And when there are many questions, more chances of making a mistake. So in this particular video, I would like to talk to you about common areas where people make mistakes when they're filling out that form. And why is it happening? I absolutely believe that majority of the people make those mistakes because they just didn't understand the question. They forgot the information that they previously left for the government, which could have been truth, and they just don't remember anymore, or it's just confusing for them. Okay? So first area that I would like to talk to you about is the question that says, have you ever been sponsored by anyone else? If an immigrant petition was filed for you before. So what is it asking about? It's not necessarily that this particular family member or company who now are sponsoring you. They're talking about any immigrant petition, okay? And it's important to know that. As a rule, the person would know if he or she has been sponsored before, but at times a person would not know because, or let's say would forget, because so many years passed, 20, 30 years passed. And that's why you need to have a copy of your file. Because very often people come to me and they say, well, a company that I used to work for tried doing something, but I do not know what happened to the filing. How would you find out? Or I went to previous lawyers and they did something, I got my work permit, but I do not know what happened. How would you find out? Well, you would order your immigration file, and that's how you would find out if anything was filed for you before and what the result was, what happened to that filing. All right, so it's very important to do that much prior to you filling out that form. Okay, so why? Because any incorrect answer to their questions may potentially lead to much bigger problem, a problem of fraud or misrepresentation. Any person who fills out the forms and leaves information that materially affects his or her eligibility for the status they're seeking, and they provided an incorrect information, may be charged with misrepresentation or fraud that requires a waiver for the green card to be approved. Okay? So that area. Now, let's talk about a very simple area of questioning that very often leads to bigger issues. It's person's work history. Why? Because at times a person would hold a non-immigrant status, and now they provide work history that shows that they used to work during the time they were a student, meaning that they were in violation of their status. At times, a person leaves their work history inconsistent with the visa application. It may also lead to findings of misrepresentation or fraud. So that's very important, to be consistent in your forms and of course to be truthful in your forms. Keep this in mind. One more area, and you may be laughing, but some people would make mistakes regarding their marital status, as to how many times they were married and what happened to those marriages. It happens more often than you think, especially in family-based cases, because sometimes one of the partners would not want the other one know that they were married too many times before, but it becomes a serious problem for immigration. At times, people try to sponsor somebody they're married in the United States, when in fact they're already married to somebody, sometimes in a foreign country, sometimes in the United States, and they haven't divorced. Important to remember that. Now, another very, very important area of questioning. How did you last enter the United States? And this is where I see a lot of problems people create. At times, they create those problems themselves. Sometimes, and most of the people would enter the United States using a visa, so that's easy, right? Or they could have been paroled. That's also going to be easy. At times, people enter without inspection so many years ago that they would forget where and when they entered the United States. Here it's very important to be as precise as possible. Perhaps your old filings may refresh your memory as to how exactly you entered and when exactly you entered the United States. Mind now, very important. That's the most important part of this video. There is a difference between entering without inspection and entering under someone else's name. Why there is a difference? Because when you enter the United States through a port of entry, let's say at the airport, using someone else's documents, you actually were inspected and admitted. You don't need to prove that you were inspected and admitted. You don't need to seek certain waivers, but you will need a waiver for misrepresentation. If, when you were entering under someone else's name, you used United States passport, false of course, with a false picture, false name, then you will be forever inadmissible in the United States. There is no waiver for that. Crossing the border without inspection is different. Remember this. Because at times a person would put, I crossed the border, I crossed without inspection. They come for the interview and the officer says, well, tell me exactly how it happened. And the person all of a sudden says that instead of crossing the border without inspection, they actually call themselves Nastya or Lena or somebody else. And they said, well, I actually live in the United States, I'm a green card holder or have a visa. And well, that's a totally different entry. It qualifies not as an entry without inspection, but entry with inspection, but now you need a waiver. So these are the legal areas, legal questions where you would need to speak with an attorney to see what is the correct way, how correctly put that information in on your forms. Okay. At times, of course, you can make a mistake. You can forget, you can remember something right at the interview. So that's understandable, but you need to know that pretty much every word that you say during your adjustment of status interview, if you will have one, may have consequences. And that's why it's important, if you're not totally sure as to how to answer questions, to be honest with your attorney and to talk about the situations well in advance, especially about situations of inconsistent information that you left for immigration in different forms, situations where there are multiple marriages and some of them are still being not resolved. That's very, very important, okay? Because some countries, they do allow um, a person to be married at the same time to multiple people, not the United States. Interestingly enough, those people, let's say a person from a country where multiple marriages are allowed, they not considered to be inadmissible into the United States, but if later they would like to stay in the United States and apply for certain benefits, they should consult with an attorney, because that becomes a little bit more complicated. I hope this video was helpful. Adjustment of status is a very interesting area. I try to publish videos on that topic often, and you can read more information about waivers and various issues related to adjustment of status on our website, www.shaltsova.com. Thank you.